All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to review 6.7, okay? We've done this before, but we're reviewing it, and this is graphing inequalities, okay? So first, when I see a problem like this that says 6x plus 5y is greater than or equal to negative 3, semicolon, negative 8, 5, what do you think I want to do? Plug in negative 8 for x and 5 for y. So I'm going to write 6 times negative 8 plus 5 times 5 is greater than or equal to negative 3. So 6 times negative 8 is negative 48 plus 25 is greater than or equal to negative 3. So I'm going to get negative 23 is greater than or equal to negative 3. Would you rather owe me $3 or owe me negative $23? I would rather
23.
you owe me $3. $23 means you're $23 in the hole versus $3 in the hole. So this is a false statement, and we would call this not a solution. Any other questions about that before I move on? So if I give you two numbers, you could plug it in? All right, unfortunately, this is going to disappear because this computer program is silly. Okay, now we're going to graph this. X is greater than negative 2. So first thing I know I need is a y-axis and an x-axis. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I made my scale by 5s because it's pretty small. And it says x is greater than 2. So which one's the x-axis? The one that's horizontal or the one that's vertical? Horizontal. So I'm going to go over to the 2, and I just put a dot there and I'm done, right? I want a line. Okay? I'm going to put a line up and down, and it's going to be dotted because it's not underlined. Okay? And it says x is greater than 2. So I'm going to plug in 0 to see if I shade the side. Is 0 ever greater than 2? No, this would be false. So does that mean I shade over 0, 0? No, I shade the other side if it's false. We have questions about this? All right, I'm going to move it up. Why don't you guys try this one on your own? Y is less than or equal to negative 1. I want you to try graphing that on your own. Okay, so do you think your line is going to be straight up and down, or is it going to be sideways? It's going to be sideways. So I'm going to go to negative 1, and I'm going to draw a solid line or a dotted line. How do we know it's solid? Because it's, yeah, it's underlined. It's or equal to. Okay. Do you guys remember how to figure out how to shade it? What are we going to do? Plug in 0. Is 0 less than or equal to negative 1? Is that true or false? 0 is less than negative 1? False. So I'm going to shade the opposite side. All right, let's try one that's like the warm-up. Everybody should be writing every single thing I'm writing on the board now. No excuses. Okay. So I make my graph each time first because that gives me a minute to think. And I'm thinking, okay, is this in slope-intercept form? Yeah. So who can tell me what is our slope for this problem? Please raise your hand. Yes, Kyle? 1/2. What is the b? Please raise your hand. Jeffrey. -1. So I'm going to put my first dot where? -1. And then I'm going to do what? I'm going to go up 2 over what? Up 1 over 2. Or down 1 over -2. Is it going to be a solid line or a dotted line? Solid, because it's underlined. And our last step is to figure out where it's shaded. So we plug it in and we say 0 is less than or equal to 1/2 times 0 minus 1. So is 0 less than or equal to -1? No, that's false, so I'm going to shade the opposite side. Alright, why don't you guys try this next one on your own? You should all be at least able to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Make my y-axis and x-axis. I count by ones because it's pretty small. I'm going to put my first dot at 1. I go up 1, over 3, or down 1 to the left 3. It is not a solid line, it's a dotted line. And then shading. I plug in 0. 0 is less than 1/3 times 0 plus 1. 0 is less than 1, is that true? 0 is bigger than 1? No? So I shade the opposite side. Do you guys need another minute to copy this down, or are you good? Okay, it's going to disappear. Yep. And we're going to move down to this problem. 4y plus 3 is greater than 3 times x minus 2. Somebody tell me what the first step would be for this problem. Distribute. So I get 4y plus 3 is greater than 3x minus 6. What do I want to do next? I want the y to end up by itself, so what am I going to do? Subtract 3 from both sides. And I'm left with 4y is greater than 3x minus 9. Divide by 4. Make sure you're dividing everything. And y is greater than 3/4 x minus 2 1/4. That 2 1/4 I'm not really excited about, but we can do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my graph. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'm going to put my first dot at -2 1/4. So I'm going to go down 2 in just a little bit. Then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Or down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to be a dotted line. And then shading should be the same thing that we've been doing. Plug in 0. 0 is greater than 3/4 times 0 minus 2 1/4. So I get 0 is bigger than -2 1/4. Is that true? You'd rather have $0 than owe me $2.25? Yeah. So we shade over the 0 then. Okay. So we know our steps here. We have to get it in slope-intercept form. We graph. We figure out what the y-intercept and what the slope is. We plot the y-intercept. Then we move up and down from the slope. We figure out if it's a dotted line or a solid line. And then we plug in 0, 0 to figure out which side to shade. Okay. Here is one for you. Let's figure out what this equation is of this line. All right, where does it cross the y-axis? -2. Okay, now I've got to figure out what the slope is. I went up 1 over 2. Okay. Is this going to be, am I going to underline this or not? It's what kind of line? It's dotted, so I know I'm not going to underline it. So now I've got to figure out which side did it shade on. I think because it's below the line, it's going to be less than. Does that make sense? How do I check that? Plug in 0, 0. Is 0 less than 1/2 times 0 minus 2? Is 0 less than -2? No, so that doesn't make sense. So I got to put it the other way, right? Oh, no, it does make sense because it's shaded on the opposite side. So why don't you guys try this one on your own? Find out what the equation of the line is. Find out what the equation of the line is. So everybody should be able to tell me what the y-intercept is, right? And then from there, it should be pretty easy what the slope is. Okay, somebody raise their hand. What is the y-intercept? So it's a +2. What is the slope? We went up over 1, so it's 2. It's a solid line, which means it's going to be underlined. Okay, and it's below the line, so I think it's going to be less, but I'm going to check by plugging in 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 2 times 0 plus 2? 0 is less than or equal to 2. That's true. It's shaded over it, so I know that is the equation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need this to do your worksheets. It's going to be helpful.